Every retirement planning method that you've heard about is missing one essential element. We've helped hundreds of people retire over the last 16 years, and we've seen the good and the bad. It's no coincidence that retirees who focus on just what the financial industry tells us to focus on, they end up having a harder time in retirement. So I'm going to show you a 5-step method to think differently about your retirement so that you can create and live a retirement that you truly want. This can be the best stage of life, but a lot of people struggle in retirement planning, and it's not their fault because the entire financial system, they've kind of brainwashed us to believe that if we can get the financial picture right, everything's going to fall into place. Of course, the money part's important and we need to get that right. But why do so many people who are financially set and they have enough, they've got everything they need money-wise, why do they still feel uncertain or why do they still feel worry? It's because what they've been taught about retirement planning is incomplete because it doesn't engage the part of our brain that literally makes all of our decisions and controls all of our behavior. It's the limbic system. So I want to share this retirement mastery worksheet that's a great add-on to everything else that you're doing right now when it comes to retirement planning. This is a neuroscience-based retirement framework that can help you get closer to your ideal retirement. I know it sounds nerdy, but anybody can do this. Now, let me show you exactly how this works. I've created a simple but powerful worksheet that's going to help you. Let's look at the top half first. We've got your ideal retirement on the left, which we often think about when we're planning retirement, but there's also the anti-retirement on the right, which not everyone does. But this contrast, it's crucial because our brain needs both the carrot and the stick to create lasting change and to keep us motivated to get what we want. And then there's 3 other parts below that. But for the first part, the ideal retirement outcome, this is where I want you to get specific. Don't just write, I want to travel or I want to exercise more. Instead, here's an example. I wake up in my comfortable home around 7 a.m. without an alarm clock. I spend mornings drinking coffee and reading and learning. I take a morning walk or swim, and then 3 days a week, I'll lift weights to maintain my muscle mass. I go to lunch with family and friend, maybe 2 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week. And then on Thursdays, I pick up the grandkids from school, and then I stay over and cook dinner for their family just to help them out. So here we got to get specific. We got to make it up. If you haven't done this before, I suggest not thinking too much about it. Don't really say, oh, do I really want to do this? I'd say treat this as more of a brain dump and get everything out on paper, and then you can edit it and refine it later. Now, here's a few questions to think about as you're going through this. What time do you want to wake up? What's the first hour of your perfect retirement morning? What does that look like? And write about it in vivid detail. Another question is, what skill or hobby have you always wanted to try or pick up again? And how would you spend time developing this during your ideal week? Third question is, if you had the perfect health and energy, what 3 adventures would you want to experience this year? Number 4 is, how do you want to contribute to others' lives? How do you want to make others' lives better? And then number 5 is, what does your perfect Tuesday look like? Pick a random day, middle of the week. It's not a vacation day, but it's just a regular Tuesday. What would you do that brings you joy? And then another idea here, again, you could come up with your own ideas here. This is just to get the wheels going. But when your grandchildren or other people in your life talk about you, what 3 specific things do you want them to say on how you impacted them? Now, here's where most people get uncomfortable and why most people don't do this. But this is where the real motivation happens as we go to the right side. Your worst retirement income, it isn't running out of money. That's pretty bad, but it's also saying if you got the financial figured out, it's waking up 5 years into the future while you're retired and realizing you became the person that you didn't want to be, right? Someone who sits in front of the TV all day or doom scrolls through social media, barely remembering what day it is. And you only talk to your family and friends every so often. But you never noticed any of this happening because it just was like a slow drift. Now, even if you think that's never going to happen, write down what you think the worst case scenario is, because your brain, it needs to feel this potential pain to really get motivated to make sure you focus on achieving the ideal retirement. Here's a few anti-retirement questions to think about. What relationships might slowly fade if you don't intentionally nurture them? Number 2 is, what health challenges could you face if you don't create a proactive routine to replace your work schedule? Number 3 is, how might your sense of purpose or self-worth be affected if you don't find meaningful ways to contribute after leaving your career? Another one is, what regrets might you have 10 years into or 5 years into retirement if you don't make changes now? And really, just to sum it up, what do you really not want to have happen in retirement? Even though this can be painful, here's the good news about this section, this anti-retirement, is if you can write down the things that you really don't want to have happen, even the things that you're scared of happening, you're going to work hardest to make sure that it doesn't happen. We just need to identify them first. Now let's move on to the second part of the worksheet. But first, I'd love to hear from you. I haven't seen any other retirement channels talk about these things. I know that they're important though, and I just don't know how they're going to be received by you. If you do like it so far, please click the like button and then leave a comment so I know that this was helpful, and then hopefully other people can get helped too. And thanks in advance if you do that. But now let's move on to the next section, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Your retirement isn't going to be created by a few big decisions. It's going to be created by the small actions you take every single day. So we're going to identify the daily and the weekly habits to create your ideal retirement, and also the ones that lead to your nightmare scenario that you just wrote about. So on the positive side, I want you to think about the habits you want to continue or the habits that you want to start doing in retirement. Right? Starting to maybe, let's say, start each morning with 15 minutes of stretching or yoga, or calling one family member every day on your morning walk, or every few days on your morning walk, or scheduling weekly coffee dates with friends, or blocking out every Tuesday for volunteering at church. Or it could be setting aside afternoons on Sunday to teach your grandkids some of the skills, or really just be present with your grandkids if you've got them. It could also be spending 30 minutes learning Spanish for an upcoming trip to Barcelona that you've always dreamed about. These aren't just random activities, they're intentional habits that are going to help rewire your brain for fulfillment. Now, as we move on to the negative side, what do we need to stop doing or guard ourselves against? These are the habits that are going to drag you into that retirement nightmare that we talked about. Right? It could be falling asleep, watching TV every night, or scrolling through social media for hours instead of having real conversations, or saying that I'm going to start exercising next week and saying that every single week. Or it could be constantly checking your investment accounts out of fear instead of focusing on the present moment right now. Remember, your brain doesn't judge your habits, it just makes them automatic. So we need to be intentional about which habits we're programming into our retirement autopilot. Now, this is where it really gets powerful. At Streamline Financial, we follow the C3 model. These are the 3 pillars of a fulfilling retirement that other financial advisors don't really talk about much. Number 1 is creativity. It's not just about creating art. It's about engaging your brain in new ways. And it's also, part of this is curiosity. So creativity and curiosity, because curiosity is the fountain of youth. And maybe it's learning Spanish, like we talked about, or taking up photography, or maybe it's a class at a local college. It could be a community college, something that interests you. Or maybe it's writing that book you've been thinking about, just to share, a book that you want to just share with your family. Maybe it's some of your history or things that you grew up doing, or just little stories that you've had in your life, something you want to pass on to kids. Now, the next C in this model is connection, because your brain, literally, we need relationships to thrive, because without strong social connections, your cognitive function declines much quicker. There's a lot of studies around this. And it's not just about having friends, it's about creating deep, meaningful relationships that give your life richness. So we need to invest some time here in making sure that we keep up those relationships and also start new ones. Finally, the last C is contribution, and that's what gives retirement purpose, because we crave meaning. We're humans. And if we can use our skills to help others, that's a shortcut to meaning. That's a shortcut to fulfillment. Whether it's mentoring young professionals or volunteering at church or teaching your grandkids those life skills that we talked about, we need to feel like we're making a difference in other people's lives. I'd love to hear what you think about this, and write something in the comments if you have any thoughts, or if you've done this or are planning in a certain way, thinking about these 3 C's or any part of this PDF. And if you like this video, hopefully more people will see this as well. And below, I'll include a link to get this PDF, to fill it out. And really, you don't even need it. You can just get a piece of paper and follow this model right here. And then I'm also going to include a link below to my favorite retirement planning calculator, in my opinion, so that you can not only do the non-financial part of retirement, which we're talking about, but also start to think more and plan a little bit more for the financial. And then here are a few other important videos to help make your retirement the best stage of life yet. Take care.